one thing I'll say about Hell, it sure is big.
All the more reason we must act quickly. Lucifer will turn others to his cause while we search for him.
Council sure does have it out for old Lucy. I don't envy the guy.
He betrays the balance.
The Darksiders games have always been known for its good hack-and-slash combat, sprinkled with light puzzle elements. Who can forget the moment when War first landed on Earth because he was called to participate in the End War in Darksiders 1? Or the new RPG equipment system in Horseman Death introduced in Darksiders 2. Honestly though, these are the only things that I know about the predecessors because I have yet to play any of them. Good things have been mentioned about the franchise, plus Denunci has been pestering me to play this new game with him, so lo and behold, here we are. What's up guys, Wisa here, and today I'm going to discuss and break down Airship Syndicate's latest game, Darksiders Genesis. Please do share, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell to receive updates on the channel. Doing so helps us a lot. Darksiders Genesis is still an action-adventure game, but this time, it utilizes a top-down perspective. The story, which is a prequel of Darksiders 1, introduces the fourth and final horseman, STRIFE, alongside his brother War, who are both trying to stop Lucifer from destroying the power balance in Hell. You are also given the chance to play as either STRIFE or War in a solo or co-op playthrough. Now before we talk about the playstyle for each horseman, let's look at the environment and puzzles of the game. Hell is surprisingly filled with predominantly bright, popping colors. When I saw the initial trailers of the game, I didn't feel any inclination to play it because of how cartoonish the environment looks like. The overarching serious tone of the plot didn't resonate well with its lighthearted, unbalanced art style. Take for instance Belial's chapter differentiated by using light greenish tones and waters to represent the overflowing acid in the chambers. But Darksiders Genesis is a story about overcoming Lucifer's intentions, so it follows that, well, Hell should be grim, haunting, and terrifying. This can be done by leaning on darker green tones, less of the slime-looking chambers, together with more elaborate environments and monster styles. When you look at the Scarab Hulk's sidekicks, it looks like an oversized fly worthy of being stomped on, rather than a menacing figure with fangs or horrendous-looking spikes that seem daunting. On the contrary, some bosses are imposing because of how large their scale is, such as the Hollow Fiend or Belial himself. It should be like this for the rest of the monsters. I did enjoy watching the comic book cutscenes because these depicted the gravity of each situation. How serious and important it is to overcome and slay Lucifer's minions to bring back the order that he disrupted. This art style makes your characters relevant because of how much the brothers have to do before all hell breaks loose. These two different directions are what makes the game's art styles unbalanced because on one hand, you have cartoonish landscapes and enemies, yet on the other you have a better and more elaborate darker comic art to express where the story is going. Styles aside, level design is actually good. Each chapter benefits from having its own set of locales and distinguishing features that the others do not. They range from hellish landscapes, to workshops for infernal war machines, to snowy mountain peaks and other fortresses of doom. This leads to a richer experience when exploring every nook and cranny of the map. What's good about each player's layout is it sets a precedence to unravel distinct puzzles. So with War, for example, he uses the Vorpal Blade and Tremor Gauntlets. The Vorpal Blade is launched in the air directed at glowing diamond pieces, which triggers doors or hallways to open up. Meanwhile, the Tremor Gauntlets is used to punch magenta crystals to recover chests or platforms to propel STRIFE and War upward to reach a different area. These puzzle mechanics are one of the best qualities of Darksiders Genesis because, like what I said in our impressions video, it forces you to be mindful of your surroundings to creatively figure out what to do next. There are even times when you have to use both STRIFE and War's abilities to unlock areas. Despite being fully aware with what's happening, we get stuck in one area and pace back and forth, so prepare for this to happen. It doesn't help that the game has no fast travel, so being patient is crucial. On top of this, some puzzle abilities don't unlock until you progress in the game, which can lead to frustration when figuring out what to do in the earlier chapters. That's fine! If you're a completionist, you can always go back to the previous chapters to unlock chests and certain trickster doors hidden behind puzzles. Hang on a second. I seem to have forgotten how fun it is to jump from one platform to the next, just like in Prince of Persia. But unlike that game, there's no such thing as saving your jumps, meaning you can't grip the edge of a cliff to save yourself from falling. If your jump is too short, you immediately fall to your death. This happened quite a lot as I was jumping onto the next hook using a chain, or as I was trying to get all of the boatman coins, which are placed on top of mountains or disappearing platforms. These boatman coins, together with souls and creature cores, are valuable in-game currency to customize Strife and War's builds, which we will be talking about in the next section. Darksiders Genesis utilizes a creature core upgrade system that's both easily customizable and detailed, where activating cores grant passive abilities for the brothers. One example is the Armored Flea that deals more attack-powered damage. There are some passives that have negative effects, such as the Void Magus by increasing the overall soul acquisition at the expense of health, which is useful if you want to specialize in one type of playstyle. For players who thrive in build experimentation, this feature is a plus since there are many abilities to choose from. You can reallocate cores at no cost, and you can also get bonuses if you match the core symbol with its corresponding tree socket. You can earn cores from Vulgrim or from slaying minions and mini-bosses. On top of the campaign, there's also an arena mode for you to try out these abilities while gaining more souls, boatman coins, and creature cores if you don't wish to go back to previous chapters just to get them. Killing the same enemies grants you more of the creature cores for that certain enemy. Having this elaborate system in place with different playstyles for Strife and War encourages players to min-max a wide array of builds. Strife focuses on ranged attacks with different ammo types. Basic shots are quick but unlimited. One ammo type, Charged Shot, takes a while to fire off, but eventually releases high damage AoE burst. You can also make use of a Beam Shot to hurt enemies in a line, or Static Shot to shock grouped up enemies. Comparatively, War plays like a fighter, focusing on heavy blade attacks. One of his elemental enhancements, Death Touch, marks enemies and causes them to explode upon death, depicted with blue-green auras on the ground, resulting in nearby enemies receiving damage. The enhancement that I enjoy using the most is Vampiric, because it allows War's bloody blades to spin continuously while damaging and draining the enemy's health. These are just a few of the examples that you can apply as you play more of Strife or War. Mind you, there's also the option to switch between these two characters, making the experience whole and more visceral. Aside from the excellent combat where I just wanted to continually mash my Xbox controller for the fun of it and build customizations, the music entices you to slash all of the enemies that you see.
Lucifer's shown me treasures beyond any that exist in this world. Your threats mean nothing.
Guess you didn't feel like talking. Too bad.
It helps build up the scenes and hype the combat, especially for boss battles, and it doesn't overpower the rest of the in-game sounds. Now, speaking of boss battles, it's actually interesting to see how distinctly memorable each of them are. One of my favorite fights in the game is against this boss that goes around an area only for us to chase while eliminating its minions. There are so many of these good fights that makes you want to play more. Now, in terms of setting your expectations, prepare to have an easy time at normal difficulty and be cautious of bugs that can impede your progress. Part of the reason why I began to lose interest in the last two chapters of Darksiders Genesis is how simple the game became. The builds didn't feel relevant because regardless of what customization I used, I can still defeat a slew of enemies and even bosses and still move on to the next level. So what I do recommend if you're playing with a friend is to start with a hard difficulty instead. In addition, I've experienced several bugs back in December such as crashes due to video card drivers, the windowed mode, losing in a certain boss fight, and errors where the game just won't trigger fights, hindering you from moving forward. The video card drivers crashes were the toughest to handle because the triggers in the first chapter were random, and Denunci and I had to keep testing to see what the workaround was. Eventually, it got resolved by updating the drivers and playing in full screen mode. The gameplay mechanics and puzzles of Darksiders Genesis are the top highlights of why you should play it. Build customizations allow you to experiment with multiple playstyles for both Strife and War. Although I'm not in agreement with some of the art style directions, I enjoyed listening to the stories and watching amazing cutscenes that supplement them. For veterans, there are also a number of returning characters such as Abaddon, Samael, and Vulgrim, making the game feel connected to the rest of the franchise. Despite the bugs which have workarounds and easy difficulty when playing in the normal mode, Darksiders Genesis is worth purchasing at its full price and playing it with a friend. The game respects your time by giving you the option to explore each part of the map or by completing arenas to gain more loot for your builds. So that's it for today, guys. Be sure to let us know what you think of the game or this video in the comments section below. If you have suggestions on what games we should review next, let us know. As always, if you enjoyed this video, sharing and subscribing to the channel helps us a lot. Following us on Twitter or joining our new Discord will also help immensely. Thank you for watching and have a great week ahead.